So, you've spoken here 4 years, 5 years, going back a while.
Yeah, something like that.
You've been in various platforms, worked for small to Fortune 500 companies, done a lot of code. I know I've seen your GitHub. Just kind of a master of...
Jack of all black market organs.
So everybody, let's welcome Robert. Thanks, operator.
Hey, so, show of hands who's like Apple phones, Apple phone, Apple. All right, we got Androids. All right. What about, hand show of hands who's used an emulator like Nox, BlueStacks, Jelly Bean, whatever those, yeah, okay, well, those are gross. And like, if your boss tells you to go like pen test an app, you don't want to like download Chinesium Nox emulator software to like test the app because, you know, there might be some gremlins in there amidst the Chinesium, you know, bloaters and stuff. So if you aren't concerned about sensitivity of the emulation device, I would suggest Nox is a pretty good place to start for Android emulation. I don't know how the magic that they do it, but basically what I'm talking about is making mobile testing easier for people in general, especially somebody on a Windows box. So the idea is that, you know, with mobile testing, it's like a lot of people have to have hardware, and then you get the hardware, and then you have to set this up, and you got to root it, and you got to maintain it, and then God forbid you actually like mess something up with the config, and you have to like, you know, go monkey and try and figure out how to reload the OS, and then reboots, and then, you know, if you break the thing, not so much anymore, but yeah, that's kind of what came about to, because for about 6 months I was kind of the web app guy for work, and that gave me an excuse to start working back on this ultimate goal of like one-click Android and never going to happen iOS emulation pen testing suite thing, so that would just make everything fall over and all the stuff be knocked on the floor. So this is me trying to get it to work. Of course, I didn't make any sacrifices to the demo gods of B-sides, so I figured why bother doing it here. Somewhere in here there is. Oh, there's something that said. So what about, if anybody done any like web application testing, use Burp Suite, Z-Attack Proxy? Okay. I was actually surprised at the numbers at B-sides of people that were had used Burp Suite or something similar. Just kind of surprised me. This will actually open somehow.
Low or high?
What's that? It was a lot. It was like more than half of the room was. And then one guy walked up to me. He's like, "I like this." I was like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I do pen testing." I'm like, "Cool, go crazy. Give me a call. I'll help you do whatever you want." So somewhere in here is like a full screen button, right? Slideshow. Yeah. So I went in and I had the names. I picked the keywords of all the tool sets that were in the tool, and then I told some website to say, you know, list me all the acronyms that have to do with this word, these lists of words, and the only one that came up that made any sense at all was JAMBOREE. So Java, Android, Magisk, Burp, Objection, Root, Emulator, Easy, which basically combines all the stuff you need to start looking at the traffic on the wire or inspecting traffic using Objection or Frida, and start looking at the garbage codes that gets sent over the internet. So, all right, go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Create a portable Android pen testing environment that's not basically spyware, because, you know, if I'm told to assess an application, I don't want to put on fire up Nox and start like doing some stuff, and find some, God forbid, you know, remote code execution on one of our servers, and then find out that I'm running it on some weird Chinese emulator that's super sketch. Kind of open source, right? I want to try to be as legit as possible. So within this, it's not even a program, it's a script that goes and just pulls down a bunch of crap and sets it all up for you through PowerShell wizardry that I don't quite understand myself. So get a working portable Python. This, even without going down the emulator rabbit hole, if you just want a portable Python, I mean, how many people, show of hands, have messed up their Python environment? Okay, like, that's annoying. Same thing with Java. You got multiple versions of Java, and like you're trying to, I'm pretty big in the portable app space, setting up those environment variables correctly, and resetting things and making them all like sit in the folder. So when you mess something up, you can either rename the folder or just delete the folder and have the script in there, and you fire it back up, and everything is just like you had never messed with it before. It also makes it an easy way to do like snapshotting. So if everything works, then you back up that folder, and then you start monkeying with on Tuesday, and something breaks, and you're like, oh, I have no idea what broke because somewhere down the line I forgot. You can pull back that essential snapshot folder and have like a little portable environment. Most of the stuff is portable. There are a few things that end up getting thrown in la la land for Windows, but in general, everything kind of stays in its own little home. So you get Python. It's a tiny Python thing, 15 meg Python binary. It's NuGet. So it gives you pip and Python and like some DLLs, and then you can do whatever you want from there. You don't have to, like, I tried to take the Python version and install it silently, and like I tried to pull it apart and make it portable, and it's like intentionally batshit crazy, just I don't know why. So I started looking around for other options, and I found some of the NuGet stuff is very specific to just get something to work, or like very small sets of binaries. It's like the only minimum stuff you need to get to run. Same thing for Java. If your Java environment's been jacked up, you can use this to kind of have a portable Java environment without installing Java. Same thing, no administrator needed. So like you don't have to have admin, and even if your Python environment is already broken, it doesn't matter. Like it resets all the environment variables and will just work. So that it gives you, an easy flexibility to do coding of any kind, really. Yeah, and there's no shenanigans in here. We'll talk about that. Just a few PowerShell tricks and a few apps that you can look at the source code for. Does anybody recognize this like compat layer run as invoker? It's a little trick that works half the time. If you're ever installing an app on Windows and you get this prompt that's like, oh, you need admin to install this, you can actually set this environment variable and it will run as that user, and it will work as long as it doesn't try to touch like a system, an admin registry key, or like a system path or something that it can't write to. You'll get the access denied. So it works hit or miss. Yeah, if you notice, this is like totally not ArmorCurdy or PowerShell. It's the not NPS, not PowerShell binary, like obfuscated and repackaged up. So that's kind of what you get. But if you set that run as invoker, it'll bypass stuff. So yeah, because I love having files all over the place and causing environment and getting pop-ups and UIC pops up and all this nastiness. Ultimately, I want to be able to sit on a machine and not have to have admin and be able to do whatever I want. That's my goal whenever I'm creating a script or an application, so that I don't have to have admin to do it. And I'll talk about the one case where you do with this particular setup. I mean, also, I don't know how much. When do I stop? Not 11:30 or something. I don't really know. I want to be respectful of time. Here's all the buttons, which I'll go over real quick. AVD is the actual Android emulator. So who's messed with, oh God, what is it? Android Studio? God, that thing's a nightmare. You go in there and you click, and then you get like all this. Oh, it's lunch after this sometime. Yeah. So, when I do it, I don't like IDEs. I don't like big bloated UIs. I don't like when I run an IDE, it like goes and starts pulling down stuff from GitHub or whatever, or just like doing all kinds of wackadoo stuff. I like having everything minimalist and whatever. So with this, it just downloads the tools for Android Studio, And there's command line versions basically to set up the emulator. You can just run like 4 command lines, and it will give you all the stuff you need for Android emulator, and you don't have to install the whole stupid studio and have like Java all over the place and like Android studio files all over here, and then like you can't find where the actual emulator files are to like back it up. It's just a mess. So I'll kind of go through the buttons. ABD is like the Android, I don't even know what it even stands for, but that's the legit Android emulator. It's not BlueStacks, it's not Nox, it's not Jelly Beans or any of the other garbage. Here's some really old like screenshots, but you know, this is showing kind of how that transaction, like replaying transactions and like having it set up so when you pick up a treasure chest or whatever, you get like a certain amount of gold or whatever. And every time I did anything with the mobile application, it sent me back all of my stats. So every time I did anything with the server would send me back a JSON of like all my stats. And I was like, okay, this is not gonna work, but I'll try it. And I'm like, anything that has a value, put like 4 nines in front of it or whatever. And of course the next post is everything 99999, and it's all like half broken. Of course my account stops working after about a day because they have some kind of algorithm. It was like some Disney Pirates game that came out way back to play around with. So yeah. So this is a screenshot of Zap working with Burp. So a cute little trick to get free everything. So you've got Burp Suite, which gives you some limitations as far as what you can do. You can't like right click and just do a bunch of scans easily. But with Zap you can. So if you feed Zap through Burp Suite or Burp Suite through Zap, if you use Zap as a proxy for Burp Suite or Burp Suite as a proxy for Zap, you can get all the best of both worlds. So you get all the easiness of Zap, and then if you want to go crunch some numbers and do some crazy, rule-based stuff with Burp Suite, you've got Burp Suite Community for you to do, and it's all free, right? So combining those two together, Zap even has a pretty cool web UI that will like let you click around the web UI and like pull stuff directly from the web UI of the website that you're on or whatever. So here's kind of the list of like features. We got PyCharm, which I had to do because I'm apparently coding Python now, and having to make stuff like look right and have like the right indentions is a pain in the butt to do it over the web. So I've had to do PyCharm. AUTOMATIC1111, if anybody's messed with the image stuff, it sets up, it's just a one-click setup for AUTOMATIC1111, and it just pulls down and sets up the Python environment for you and all that. So you just need a GPU that supports it. Click AUTOMATIC1111, it'll pull down all this stuff and set it all up for you and fire up the web page. AutoGPT doesn't really work anyways, but that's like an AI-based agent, and it's this script has kind of ended up being more of like a, okay, well I need to update this script over here. It's a bat script or some god-awful something else script. I'll just rewrite it in PowerShell and maintain this big monster PowerShell script. So as I need features that have, as I have something that I need to update that needs PowerShell or Python or whatever, I'll add that feature into here. So it ends up being kind of like a catch-all for some of my stuff. Same for BloodHound. If you've been in an environment where there's like Active Directory and it's legacy or it's large, BloodHound will do all kinds of gross stuff. Right, so it'll show you like direct paths to domain admin. So we had like a cybersecurity information awareness month, and I had people type it in their username, and I'm showing them how to get to domain admin. Like, yeah, just type / $C$, you can pop this box, and then pivot to Bob's credentials in your domain admin. So it's really cool to run to. Their new version is based on Docker, and it's written in Go, and it's like stupid fast now. It's like 20 times faster than it used to be. There's another project called Brita, and so it's like a bridge to help with like decompiling in real time, injecting into like calls for actual applications. So that's where I get lost. I can see the traffic, I can get the traffic on the wire, but once you get past that, you'll see encrypted payloads inside of the application itself. So you've gotten SSL stripped, you can see the traffic, but it'll be like parameter equals and then like a big hash, and then that hash is basically somewhere in the app there's some encryption or encoding, and that's how you get the actual value of that. But you can do still things like replay attacks where put the same hash into a bunch of times and possibly get 8 crates at the same time instead of just getting 1 crate. So there are some things you can do with like replay text, even if you're using like encrypted values or encrypted payloads. It gives you Java, Zap, Google Play. It supports inside the emulator. So if you want to log in and download whatever legit apps, I'm using Android 11 with API 3, 3.0 or 3.30, I guess. Magisk is the part that gives me, which I'll show you, gives me the route to actually install the certificates to get to see that SSL traffic. Let's see, Magisk Burp, of course. Objection is the tool that helps you kind of inject yourself into processes in real time and have visibility into what's going on. Root comes from Magisk's Python. Frida is similar to Objection. Objection is a tool that Frida uses, Objection is a tool that Frida uses, and then certificates. It manages all the certificates and stuff. So here's the PyCharm. I mean, nobody needs to know what an IDE looks like. We've already talked it. I can't stand them. So AUTOMATIC1111 is fine if you haven't played with it. I'm not allowed to play with it anymore. It's kind of got obsessed with it for a while. AutoGPT stuff is kind of fun. You get it's like an agent, and it will go out to the internet and like pull stuff down and like do research for you and ask you questions, and you can guide it along the way, or you can tell it to go do stuff. It doesn't really work. A lot of them don't. The agents don't really work, as far as I know, unless you're like a prompt engineer master wizard. It's not quite idiot-proof yet, but pretty soon you'll have some pretty interesting results, and you'll have your own little assistant. You pay whoever a month. This is BloodHound, which that's what our Active Directory looks like. If you have an old legacy company that has a bunch of technical debt, or their Active Directory is like anybody else's, large corporations Active, they all look like that. And they have an enterprise version that ends up helping with that. It'll have like a little graph, and it'll say 80% of your problem is by fixing this, and the other percent is you can drill down. But nobody wants to pay for software, so I just use the community version. Everybody gets domain admin. But yeah, I use this graph theory to reveal the hidden and often unintended relationships between an Active Directory or Azure environment. They do have Azure stuff, which I haven't even played with yet. Identifying highly complex attack paths that would otherwise be impossible to quickly identify. As far as I know, there's only a couple of companies that do anything like this, and if they do, it's not nearly as detailed. And as Azure attack paths come out, and as Azure releases weird APIs that do stuff, I don't know how they do it, but they go in there and reverse engineer it, and they really understand what that part of the Azure thing does, and they break it down and be like, oh, well, we were able to do this and pivot to this, this part of rights, and then get escalated as privesc through some weird new API that just Microsoft just throws out there, kind of seems like arbitrarily. Also have an ADB Debloat, so everybody has, if it's not a stock Android phone, you can use ADB Debloat that will give you a little menu. It takes a really long time because it has to decompile it has to extract each program and then go in there and pull a specific thing to give you the friendly name, the label of it. So that package label is the part that takes the longest. You can get the other 2 pieces of information pretty quickly, but the package label it takes a little bit longer to do, and sometimes they'll be very cryptic. It might not say Samsung blah blah blah. It might say call forwarder or call filter, and you're like, what the hell is call filter? I don't know. But by the time between these 3, package name, package path, and package label, you can usually get an idea of who the hell is it and why is it there. And then of course you remove it, and your phone starts reboot looping because you removed pulled the legs off from under it. And it doesn't want to work anymore. I had a mass debloat script that I thought, oh, I'm going to take all the debloat stuff for all of the XDA. And I'm going to pull them all into one thing and just make a big for loop, and it will just nuke any of this. It'll nuke Verizon and Samsung, and it'll nuke all the bloatware all at once in one fell swoop. I'm like, all right, and I run it, and I reboot, and then just, yeah, this phone just keeps looping, and so.
Highly efficient.
Yeah, so I mean, it works. It got rid of all the bloat, but it also, like, you know, pulled some of the legs out from under the phone. Yeah, Python, Java, ADB, so if you want to do any of that stuff, it's just a one-click deal. Good Java, pip, all that fun stuff. Now here's kind of the limitations as far as the local admin goes. It'll be stupid slow if you don't have local admin and you can't install or utilize like the Windows hypervisor hardware acceleration. And if you can't use like Haxium, this is the one I support now. I don't support it, but this is one I use now. These two, I haven't even been able to play around with or get to work, but it would be nice to have support for these, or even detect if the Windows hypervisor is like enabled, and it wouldn't need Haxium, but the older versions support Haxium, the newer stuff is not going to support Haxium. So eventually I'm going to have to switch to probably the Windows hypervisor or whatever this AEHD stuff, which I tried to get to work. And I couldn't get either one of those to work, but I want to eventually get off the Haxium stuff because that requires admin. And what I'm hoping is that everyone will have more likely this, and they won't need admin to install it. So that's the limitation, because if not, it's stupid slow. If you've ever had to do like the Android emulation on like a CPU, it's bad. Like it takes like, you know, a good like 5-10 minutes to boot up the emulator. So you get you know, a lot of the things is you'll get the other kind of caveat is that I haven't quite figured out. Google has the Google Play Store, and within Google Play they have this that SaftyNet stuff. And there's a guy somewhere that posted a video how to bypass SaftyNet on an emulator, but he hasn't released anything about it yet. But I'm hoping he'll release something, and I can have all the SaftyNet checks check out OK in Android. So there's a lot of things that happen when you fire up there's a lot of obfuscation essentially within Android of people like just basically hiding their shit code. So the idea here is to pull all those onion layers back, make the root detection pass, make the SaftyNet stuff pass, you know, use Objection, Frida, whatever else to make it pass, and then eventually get to the actual traffic that's going across the wire, and then maybe have another utility that will help inspect and inject different calls to different functions, and being able to find those payloads, encrypted payloads, and decrypt them and all that stuff. That's the part that I need a fair amount of help with, as far as getting to that space where you can start decrypting payloads or like looking at encoded payloads that were generated by the application. So I can see the traffic and I can monkey around with it, but when you start getting into, I would say about half of them have some kind of encrypted payload. So it's just kind of hit or miss depending on who wrote the app, and you know, the guys in the basement or some kind of, you know, all around IDE thing. So let's see. This, I don't think this is as important as using something. You can kind of get past the SaftyNet stuff by using Frida. So these are kind of two separate like root detection type of calls. I actually don't even think you need this SaftyNet stuff to actually work to get Objection and Frida to work. But what I would like is everything to look perfect and normal. So there's other things like build props, where right now the phone looks like an emulator. You go into the about section and it's like, you know, x86, blah blah blah. It doesn't look like the right phone. So there's different things you can do to make it look like a normal phone. So if anybody does check for that type of stuff, the checks will come back okay. So that's some of kind of the limitations where I'm at today. You know, we were talking about AUTOMATIC1111. I got bored and put some explosions and whatever. So that's just an example of what a prompt would look like from like AUTOMATIC1111 from back in the day. Anyways, I know I talked pretty quick. I'm going to try to do a demo and show you kind of how easy it is. basically any Windows box connected to the internet, you can start playing around with this stuff. So any questions, or does this make any sense to anybody? Is anybody interested in, like, you know, popping up their grandma's bank app? Because I'll tell you, the bank apps are less secure than like your premium, what do they call those, freemium games? Like, you're better off hacking like some third world bank mobile app than you are the Supercell guys that make, you know, all the Clash of Clans stuff. Because all they do all day is just like, they have people trying to pop their stuff. Like, just a bunch of kids that are bored in their parents' basement. Nope, good? All right, now y'all get to see me stumble through the interface here. So, I mean, this is tiny letters. I'm gonna make it hurt. See if I can give you a little bit more. I'm not gonna change the 800 by 600. Bananas. Look at that. So here's all the buttons. You can't even see all the buttons. They're like, goes down towards the bottom. So I was having issues with the actual seeing the SSL traffic. Power off. Let me try the one I was using before. What? This is the one that worked, so I should probably just use the one that works instead of rebuilding it every time. And the cool thing about it is that it takes like, you can have the whole thing up and running and working in like 8 minutes. Like, if you have a fast pipe, the stuff that takes the longest is the pulling down the images for the ROM for the phone for Android. Everything else is like stupid fast because I made it set up so I'm only pulling down the minimum stuff that I need to make the thing go. So this is the little, you know, ASCII thing somebody did for me, ASCII art. So it's setting your home path, setting a user profile, it's setting app data, local data. It's also setting Android environment variables, Java environment variables, root AVD environment variables that it uses to do its magic. It's essentially start AVD, and if I didn't already have it tools downloaded, it would check for Java, and then it'll pull Java down. And once it pulls Java down, it'll pull down the Android tools. Once it pulls Android tools down, it'll launch the command line to pull down Android 11 3.0 with the Play network support. And then it'll start up your emulator. So even without doing much of anything, you already have an Android emulator ready to go. Like, all I did was right-click, run PowerShell, and click Start AVD, and now you already have an Android emulator that's legit. It's not like some weird wackadoo weird thing. So if you ever just want to play around with Android, it's stupid easy to do. All the tutorials, a lot of the tutorials don't use this easy method. They tell you to, you know, download Android Studio and click this, and like 18 screenshots later, you're still like trying to get the thing to start. So I bypassed all that and
just give it what he wants.
Yeah. The weird part was that the licensing, agreeing to the license, was tricky because I don't know if you've ever tried to do this where like you have a prompt that says, you know, accept license, hit yes, and if you pipe like the Y command to it, or like a Y in a carriage return, it'll like automatically accept the license. Well, of course, it's like trying to pass passwords in SSH. They like frown upon that, or it's not standard input. It's like TTY or whatever. So I was looking for a way to get around it, and what I ended up doing was somehow I found something, and it was a Microsoft GitHub repo that was like Kubernetes stuff or automation or something, and it was firing up Android Studio or Android tools, and they had this weird PowerShell, this long dilapidated PowerShell command, and I was like, I don't even know what this does, and it ends up basically creating a bunch of text files using like base64. Yes, it's like, this is the only sketch stuff in the entire thing. It's like creating license files, and it's like license content base64, and it's this big blob of like base64, and it's like a compressed file. Yeah, it creates a zip file with licenses, and then it extracts those licenses, and then it's basically you have accepted all the licenses for all the Android stuff. That was like one of the most tricky things. The other one is how to handle, which I'll talk to in a minute if I get this to run. So we have legit Android thing. We can start logging into Play Store, doing whatever. I'd like to kind of show it from start to finish, but I also want to make sure I can get the SSL stuff to work. So let me skip ahead. The Haxium install would be the next step if you don't have hardware acceleration. Actually, that should be the first step. That should be the first button. Or some kind of hardware acceleration you can change in the script. The Burp Suite button has a Burp Pro button. If you hit Burp Suite, it'll pull down the latest community edition. It'll make sure Java's there. It'll fire it up for you. The cool thing it does in the background is that it pulls down the Burp Suite license. So if you generate a new license, you have to push that back to Android, and then that's a whole process. If you've ever looked at the tutorials on how to like get the license, get the Burp Suite license onto the Android emulator, it's like you gotta like use OpenSSL and like run these commands and rename the file with like bit flips all the way. Like for whatever reason, Android has these weird requirements around this SSL certificates, and it's just a pain in the butt to get it set up. So I realized what it was, and I realized that the Windows cert util can give me that same information without using OpenSSL, because I was like, I do not want to download OpenSSL X binary on a Windows box when that just seems weird and I don't want to do that. So I realized that the cert util in Windows gives you the same information, so you can rename the certificate and also change its type from a dir or a cert file to a dir or whatever the format it uses. So there's like some magic there to get the certificate installed. So it pulls down the certificate from Burp, it converts it, and it renames it to the Android file the way that Android wants it, and then it pushes it to the phone for you and does it all. So that way you don't have to worry about trying to do 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon just to get the thing to run. We're already seeing HTTPS, which is good. So the first step is to see traffic, HTTP traffic. The second step is to see HTTPS traffic. And the last step is to see encrypted or SSL pinning. So that's where like Frida comes in. And I've updated the Frida script. It just does anti-root and SSL depinning stuff. The latest ones that I can find. And let's see, there's a test application called Goat. So this is like a little UI I wrote, because it's also annoying to have to figure out what package is the one you're actually trying to test. So I set it up so where if you know like the package, the com name or the package name or part of the name, you'll have like a little UI where you can easily pick instead of having to like figure out copy and paste com dot, whatever the game is or whatever you're trying to play around with. So I made a little just an easy, this is PowerShell's like little default multi-checker thing. So you can just filter based on. So this is this little testing app to test SSL pinning. And it fires up Frida, it pushes it for Frida to work, you have to push a binary to the phone and run the server on the phone. And the Frida on the local machine, the host machine, communicates to the server on the phone, and it's a whole thing, and they have to match. So like if they're out of whack in different versions, it'll start throwing errors all over the place. It manages all that for you. I think it's latest and greatest. I try to make everything latest and greatest, so that way if somebody comes up with new types of features within the app, then I won't have to worry about it. It'll just be there. So I try to run it often and go through the motions, kind of the checklist, to make sure everything works with the newest stuff, because people will swap out binaries and then it will create a dumpster fire for people sometimes. So at this point we've started, so I can find where the emulator is. So here's our network intercepting thing, and then here's Burp Suite running in the back. We'll clear the screen out. Boop. So you hit HTTP first, okay? We have HTTP traffic. You probably can't see any of this. And then after that is testing HTTPS. So we're getting HTTPS traffic. And then the hardest one is having to push that certificate, make it all happy, and push it to the server, and make sure that you're getting all that to work. That's the HTTPS part. And then the last part is using Frida with the scripts to bypass root detection and disable SSL pinning. So that's what this last step is for. So it's an easy little script to run if you want to make sure everything works before you start actually, pen testing applications in Android. So I'll that's the end of this is what it looks like when it's all set up. But I'll show you what it looks like with it all not working at all, and in theory, it should just work. I'm on the hotel Wi-Fi too, so I just give 0 Fs if any of this is going to work. That's how confident I am in my PowerShell skills. Actually, the one I just downloaded, it was acting weird, so we get to see if I can get it happy. So I'm just going to create a new folder and call it. Oh my god. Do it live. This will, I think the whole thing is maybe 8 megs or something like that, or 8 gigs. It's not oh my god. It's not a lot of traffic, or it's not a lot of space. That's why it makes it so easy to just back up, when you get it working, like that WAT folder, I could zip that folder up and have a working, 3 gig zip file of my Android environment, and then I could just unpack it anywhere. Windows works for Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever. So this is just a PowerShell script I've downloaded from my GitHub, running it. It's kind of setting up the environment, and there's not really anything, I haven't done anything yet. I've just set up a bunch of environment variables. And assuming I've already done the Axiom install, the first step is usually fire Burp Suite. So it says, Burp, you don't have Java. And these checks are not actual programming, leading practices. It's is there a folder called Java? Okay, you're missing Java. So it goes down and pulls the whatever version of Java that works best with Burp Suite. So now it is, yeah, it's trying to pull down the Burp Suite, BYURP. Right now it's started up Burp Suite, and it's trying to download Burp Suite, and then after it downloads Burp Suite, it runs in the background, constantly trying to pull down the certificate from Burp Suite to use it to push to the phone once we have the actual emulator running. So this is downloading from the what do you call it, the hotel Wi-Fi. It's actually taking a long time. The emulator stuff might be, but I just did it from in there not too long ago, and it took probably took 5 minutes to pull down the image. But Burp Pro is 100 and something megs. It might be. It's pulling down Pro and Community. I use Pro for work. So there's nothing on here. There's nothing in this folder prior to me running the PowerShell, and I'm on the hotel Wi-Fi. So it's stupid quick and stupid idiot proof. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, when you're using Pro, how do you handle the licensing key?
Oh no, you just put in, when you start it up, it runs the jar file, and yeah, I mean there are some shenanigans you can do to sort of reuse keys or whatever. When I was doing a lot of virtual environment stuff, I had to use shenanigans to essentially copy the Burp Suite license, because I could only activate it twice, and every time I blew a VMM, I'd have to put Burp Suite back on there, and it was just kind of a mess. And I used it for training and stuff, so I kind of found a little easy bypass for the certificate stuff. So right here, this little yellow line, it's trying to push the Burp Suite certificate to the emulator that's not there. It's trying to push that, and it's going to keep trying in the background. Or actually, it tries in the background until Burp Suite is running. It's not waiting for the emulator quite yet. It's waiting for the Burp Suite proxy to be running. So it's pulled it down. It's showed what I've given some information about the certificate itself, and it's renamed it. I think it's already done the renaming and stuff. Nope, not quite yet. So right now it's just burp.dir, and we've got JavaScript and and Burp Suite going. So this is the one that's like sketch. To download, it's gonna take forever. So right now we have Java, Burp Suite Pro, Burp Suite Community, and the certificate for Burp Suite to push to the emulator. Right now it's down. Since I clicked start the Android, it's pulling down all the stuff you need. It's pulling down Python, that little tiny NuGet Python that has just pip and Python in it. It's pulling down all the dependencies to run Frida and Objection for you. All, I guess, latest and greatest, whatever. It also updates pip before it does any of this. So the idea is that, like I said, I try to make everything be the latest and greatest, and then if I have any issues, then, like, I think even with Windows 11 on the base build, I want to say it might have been one of the Debloat tools that I ran, but I was missing something, and I had to enable something in Windows 11, but I haven't checked it yet because I'm fairly confident it's my Debloat script that just like nukes a bunch of stuff in Windows. So there's not all that spyware running. This is extracting the, oh, there's a bunch of carriage returns in there. Extracting one of kind of three parts. I can't really tell because the text is so massively large. But like I said, the images are like 3 or 7 gigs. That's the biggest part of it all. You can, like I said, you can back up the folder. It takes a few seconds. So after the emulator starts, the next part is to run Magisk. And Magisk, I don't actually understand how it works. It basically routes an emulator through some shenanigans. So it creates like a temporary root, and then you create a patch file to apply on boot to finish the installation of Magisk, which gives you the pseudo binary, and it gives you Magisk. And Magisk lets you do, they have a bunch of plugins for Magisk to do like all kinds of weird stuff. And they used to have like a store, but they got rid of the store because I guess, I don't know, maybe other people were making like malicious stores or something, I don't know. But they used to have a cool little store where you could just go through and be like, oh cool, you know, fix YouTube player. And it would make a patch for YouTube player that made YouTube actually usable. Or they would have like UI changes, so if you didn't like the way the transitions work between this, and then you have people like stacking up a bunch of mods together into one master mod, and it would just like ruin the interface of your phone, you have to like reload. So that's why doing the emulator stuff here is fun, because you can practice with different Magisk modules and decide if you like them, if it's something that actually works and just doesn't crash your phone. You don't have to really risk, you know, jacking up your phone, playing around with weird mods that do stuff. The other silly bit was trying to get Zap to work with Burp Suite, because I couldn't remember, I got it to work at one point in time, and I couldn't remember if I made Zap proxies bitch or Zap Burps bitch or Burps Zap bitch, and I don't know which way I had the traffic going. And eventually, I couldn't even tell you which way it is now. I think I have Burp Suite use forward its traffic to Zap. And that way you don't have to do the certificate stuff again, all over again with Zap. And I tried to do the certificate stuff automatically with Zap, and Zap is annoying. It won't let me easily get to that certificate file in a non-retarded format. So I just leave everything Burp, and then Burp, you press the Burp Zap proxy button, and it'll set up Burp Suite before you run it to use Zap instead of the normal. And it's just the setting in here, it's like, I call it like a forwarding, it's a weird setting. Streaming responses, maybe? It's one of these guys. Because at first I thought it was this on the bottom, use a SOX proxy, and I kept aiming Burp at Z attack proxy with these settings, but it's not actually that. It's called like a transparent, upstream proxy server, which I don't technically know the difference, but this is what you're supposed to use if you're going to forward it to Zap. So it basically adds that local proxy of like port 8081, and then I have command line for Zap that starts up Zap on port 8081, so that the traffic can go from Burp Suite to Zap, and you can see all the stuff and click all the buttons with the Burp and Zap, whichever you want to play with. We got our emulator up. Usually, this is I don't know, this is an old Surface something or other. It's not a stupid fast box. It's a little piece of something I found at the office that I rescued. So it's not a fast box. You don't need a ton. You just need like some GPU. We call it local hardware emulation or hardware virtualization stuff. So I usually let it marinate for a minute before I start going bananas with it. Because if you ever turn on a phone or boot up a Windows box, what does it do? It just starts going, calling to the mothership, So I'll let it marinate for a second, and then I'll do the root Magisk stuff. So it's pulling down Magisk, it's running it. It's like it's actually a bat file, and then it's also a SH script. So depending on the OS, it'll run the bat or the SSH script, or the bat or the SH script. And it's got some options here to pick out which one you want. I used to have it running 2.5. And I switched it to 2.6 because 2.6 has better stuff for like obfuscating and the whole build prop and making your phone look like a phone and not a toaster. So it tells you, it'll like temporarily start it, and then you hit the install button. And I've got a video of all this stuff for the latest way. So you're essentially like temporarily rooting it, and then you're creating a patch based on, I think, the current like bootloader or something. And it'll create this like boot file. So once it reboots, it will be able to like do the rest of the installation and give you root. So I've aimed it at this patch file. I will shut down. Look at that, we get a warning box. So just in case I accidentally click it, which it looks like I have. Every once in a while, it'll get kind of crashy, the actual emulator itself. Usually what you can do, so I've installed Magisk, now I'm going to start the emulator back up, because I have one more reboot to do, because I have to push that SSL certificate we pulled down from Burp. I have to push that to the phone, along with a little plugin for Magisk that helps you manage your certificates and stuff. You can do it manually, but I don't know how to do it. I would get rid of the SSL certificate tool for Magisk if I knew how to get it to work without all these weird permission issues. The permissions have to be like just right for your certificate to get loaded up in the emulator, and I gave up, and I was like, all right, I'll just use the module for it. It's still booting. And this is a Pixel 2. And you can define the command line. It's just like one command line. It might even be just one command line to like get all the stuff you need. You can just change out whichever version you want to play with. And somebody was like, oh, you're using an old version. I'm like, well, then change the number, the version you want. And if you don't want it to be a different, if you want Pixel 1 or whatever, doesn't matter. Just change it to whatever you want. Now, none of the shit's gonna work. Like, none of the extra stuff is necessarily gonna work. As far as like doing any of this, what you want is, you don't want the newest, latest, and greatest, because it's all got more anti-hacky stuff in it. But you also don't want like Oreo from like the Nox or BlueStacks days. Like those are stupid old. So I'm kind of trying to pick like the most compatible one that will stick around the longest. And as stuff happens, I can add more to it. Yeah. So right now we have root now. So now we're going to use this upload burp prim. And it warns you that you need to use 10.0.2.2 is like the local IP of the host machine. And of course port 8080, which is what Burp Suite's running on. So it's like installing the Magisk always trust user certs script. And then it's converting the dir to a PIM, I think, a .crt. And then it's doing this weird, crazy PowerShell to like pull information using certutil out of the certificate. There's like the first four hex dumps of whatever, it pulls those in. But not only it's just the first 4, it has to like take the first 4 and then like reverses the bit of each one. So it's like, I don't know why it's so complicated. So like, it's supposed to be like, for this example, it's 9A, 5B, A, 575, but it's actually A9, B5, 5A, 57. So I had to like use some stupid weird PowerShell shenanigans to like rename the certificate the right way. So it's all happy. We're gonna shut it down. This should be the last time we need to shut down. And I'll say, even if, I've never really had it crashy. The only time it's ever been crashy is when some app is trying to get to somewhere it can't because I'm doing something weird with the traffic, and it'll start crapping out and getting kind of weird. But I'll usually see it before it crashes. If I'm looking at Logcat, I'll know something's going on. Usually it'll act weird. I start messing with the app and it'll start being all crashy, and I'll look at the log and I'm like, oh, it's trying to get to some like weird ad server that I blocked, or I blocked locally at the house. So instead of like being polite, like what all apps should do, it like, you know, waits a time before it, but no, it just like sits in this infinite loop trying to download like some kind of like, you know, TikTok ad or something, and just the thing goes bananas on. So we got our cert. What I like to do is there's a little button here that's called install base APKs, and that's where I get the test file, the Go app to just test it. So there's a few like utility apps that are in here that I use. You failed, that's weird. Is it running? Oh, the emulator's not running, that's all installed. And start it back up again. There's also a little bit of debug information that is in the original console that will help you, because it talks about the Vulkan, added Vulkan DLL, that's the hardware acceleration, if I remember, and gives you information about like the service, the ADB ports and stuff. So some of the output of the actual Android emulator is in the window here, but I don't really, it's not really useful. I don't use it for anything. But this tool is great just for having, if you need Python and Java. We use EDR at work. I guess top 2 EDRs, top 3 EDR, and none of this gets flagged. Like, it doesn't care about any of it. I don't know why, because there's like that gross, you know, encoded bit, like that base64 encoded line that's like creating zip files and extracting them. Like, that should have probably flagged. And like downloading an entire like suite of like IDEs should, but then that's just how developers are. So I guess you don't want to fire every time somebody downloads a development environment. I'll do that. Install base APKs. It pulls down a SAI split package installer. Basically, I don't know how it works, but it used to be APKs were a single zip file. Now they're like split up into like 3 or more different APKs, and they somehow mismatch them together. So it's not like you can easily back up your applications. There's like, it's like a zip file with like 3 zip files inside of it. Because the APK extension is just a zip, as far as I know, and it's a weird, might even be a weird compression. But I know some of the stuff on the Android backend is a weird compression because I've had to mess with it before. Oh, actually, that's part of one of the dependencies for Ruby or Python is that it's called something XY, some kind of weird compression that Android uses, like it's super fast or super efficient or something, but you can't take like 1-zip and extract it, or like 7-zip or extract it. It's like you have to come find some weird binary to get some of these weird Android stuff. So we've downloaded our little base APKs, which are these guys. Once you've gotten root, it's actually good to come in Magisk and make sure that everything is happy. Let's see. I mean, you can update the thingy. Usually, it'll warn you and say, "Oh, I'm not up to date. I need to reboot to be completely happy and installed." It says installed NA, but that doesn't make any sense because we have root, so that doesn't make any sense to me. But here's our Android goat test, Android goat. So we're gonna fire up Frida, which should, when I pick the application that's already running, it will kill it. Frida automatically knows to kill the application if it's already running, because you can't really hook an application that's already running, at least the way that it does it. What errors? What is all this? SU inaccessible or not found. Okay, so we don't have root. So let's go back to this guy, install Magisk. Yeah, it looks like it's doing all the stuff it's supposed to be doing. It doesn't look happy for some reason. Oh. It shut it down, so it can talk to the ADB bridge, but it's, for whatever reason, the Magisk part died on this. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to start from just the PowerShell script to show you like how quickly you can get the emulator to fire up, and like it's a bit of a mess in there. Like if you look in this folder, this is like I don't have any kind of, I just kind of dump stuff everywhere. But like this is the script for the root stuff, the root detection, the Frida scripts. It's all in there, but that's pretty much it. I'm still looking for like help with, there's a thing called like RPS, or like if you know any super Android hackers that can do actual like real-time hooking of like API call like of functions. There's one piece I'm trying to like figure out. That's like the last piece I'm trying to kind of figure out, which might not be something that's in my skill set. But I actually like post GitHub stuff. Like RPS, RMS. So this is like some kind of, it's like it's a mobile security, runtime mobile security that lets you like real time, like it's got a web interface and uses Node and does all this cool stuff. And like what this guy's doing in the video, I have no idea what he's actually doing. So that's kind of my, like where I get stuck is like, once you get those encrypted payloads, how do you go from decrypting those payloads, hooking calls, and figure out which one is the one that calls your, encryption or decryption payload or function, and then, whiz banging it through this UI. But it's like, it's Node and it wants like Visual Studio, and it's just a mess. So I'm like, it goes outside of my like clean and simple, because like adding another thing, adding Node, and then having to have like admin to install Visual Studio, it's like, unless I can get around that, I probably won't implement the runtime mobile security stuff. But that's kind of what I need for the next step. So I can like, I see all the traffic, I see the plain text, but now I just have a bunch of encrypted payloads, and now I need to like hook the app and figure out what those actual payloads are and be able to manipulate them in real time. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's pretty much it. Well, let me know if you have any questions or whatever, grab me. But definitely play with it. It's, quick download, and you don't have to have all kinds of crap all over the place.
What's your GitHub name?
Oh, it's in the slides. I'll put out some, it's Freeload 101. If you do like Freeload, FRELOAD 101, and in the search, it'll bring up JAMBOREE. I thought I had a slide on this. Yeah, just armacurry.com is my site. I don't know where this. Oh, this is like in different languages that worked on. But yeah, just my site or just GitHub, freelib101, and you'll see a bunch of other random stuff. I have like all kinds of scripts for all kinds of random things. There's all kinds of security stuff in there. But pretty much it.
Any more questions? Thanks, man.
Awesome.